Well, that's Mr Farage. I think he's still speaking, but we're joined now by the UKIP MEP, Tim Aker. He's also the party's parliamentary candidate in Thurrock in Essex. So another day, another UKIP immigration policy.
Well, it's an important issue. In my constituency, I get people asking me about this all the time.
So why do you keep changing your mind?
Well, it's not. We are the party of change for the reasons that we want to change our agreement with the European Union so that we can control our borders. I mean, in my constituency, Ed Miliband's candidate won't even debate me on this, and the Conservative candidate says the illegal immigrants who came in through Tilbury shouldn't be deported. So we're saying we want to control it and have an Australian points-based system so that people know that their government is in control of our borders.
But you're only a party of change in the sense of the party of changing your mind, aren't you?
Well, you've got to look at...
I mean, at one stage you wanted a gross migration target of 50,000. Previously it had been a net migration target of 50,000, and now the target is back to normality. All that in the space of 3 weeks is quite remarkable.
Well, we've looked at what the impact of an Australian point system would have done to our immigration numbers, and we've said that it would be about 27 to 30,000. So it'd be nice to not have a cap, to not have to worry about numbers, and so that we can have good immigration, positive immigration, and give immigration a good name again. And we think having more people who can contribute, the more skilled into this country, would give people faith in our border.
You're going to have a quango. An immigration commission. Well, I always thought you were against quangos, but never mind. You're going to have a quango, and it's going to have business leaders on it. Many business leaders would like to see a liberal approach to immigration because they need the skills. What would happen if this commission recommended we should have a net migration of 200,000 a year?
Well, many big business leaders have said that they want an open door because that brings them cheap labour and more profit. But smaller businesses, independent tradesmen want to have control of our borders. But we'd also said that we'd have trade unions, and we want a skills survey.
What would happen if the Commission came out with a figure of around 200,000?
Well, it would be set with a remit to actually reduce and control immigration. But when we're outside the European Union, we will be able to control immigration just like Australia does.
All right. The reason I'm confused is that sitting, I think, just in the seat that Hilary Benn is in right now, I spoke to Stephen Wolfe last week from UKIP, and this is what he told me your immigration policy was. Let's have a look. Would you have net migration as a target?
No, we'd have gross numbers.
You would go gross, right. So what would your gross target be?
As I say, in terms of employment, 50,000 for those who have the right to work with the option for permanent residence here. That's a very significant part because we would still have flexibility to work with businesses and universities for the part-time and short-term contracts. You have to take that out. That would take out over 167,000 from these numbers each year.
So that was last week's policy. Now it's different.
You've got to look at what the actual policy would implement, and we've looked at the numbers and the way the Australian points-based system works, and it would come between 27 and 30,000 within the last year. So
you're now looking for a gross figure of 27,000?
He was talking about employment figures. He was talking about those high-skilled valued workers that would come.
But is that still your target?
Points-based system. The target is to bring immigration under control.
Right. But he gave us a target last week. Is that no longer the target?
We've seen the target is to bring it under control. Now we've seen from
CAPs, that's no longer the target.
We've seen from CAPs that very few politicians meet them. The Conservative CAP, despite it being noble, they've been blown way off course.
We'll come on to the Conservatives in a minute. I'm trying to establish...
Labour and the Conservatives mess on immigration.
It's a simple question. Is what Stephen Wolfe told this programme last week, is that still party policy or isn't it?
It is to bring immigration down to the numbers that we've seen for most of the 20th century, which were between 20 and 50,000.
Well, in the 1990s, net migration was around 50,000. So you'd be going below even that.
Well, we'd look to bring immigration back under control, but the point is it's going to change year on year with the skills that we actually attract to the UK so that we can get more jobs and get more people working.
Given that immigration is such a key issue for you, don't you think you need to be a bit more consistent? So because people appear... I mean, I'm confused of what your policy is now, so I can assure you if I'm confused, because I'm paid to not to be confused, most voters out there have got no idea what you're talking about now.
Well, we have been completely consistent in saying that we want to get back our border control from the European Union and treat everyone fairly across the world. It's what system have we got now where we have a complete open door to half a billion people in the European Union, but we're being incredibly strict with people from the Commonwealth, people with skills that we want to bring into the UK. So we have been consistent in saying we want to get our borders back and we want to control migration.
You were writing the manifesto at one stage, weren't you?
I was writing the policies.
Yeah. Did you get fired?
Well, I got elected as a councillor last December. It was very tragic consequences. A friend of mine passed away in Averley, and I was asked to stand as the local councillor.
Right.
And
So did
it was
you
a case
resign?
where I decided to pass it over to Suzanne Evans.
All right, and she hasn't yet produced the manifesto. When you were writing the immigration part of the manifesto, what was the policy then?
The policy was to control immigration, have an Australian points-based system.
Right. Okay.